Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Future of Entertainment is Now. I'm Caitlin Roper, executive producer of scripted film and TV at the New York Times. 2020, right? It's disrupted industries and accelerated changes almost overnight. The entertainment world has seen one of the most rapid recalibrations. With all the nation's 5,500 movie theaters closed, streaming services have come to dominate how we watch movies and television, completely upending the business model. And with concerts suspended indefinitely, musicians have found unique ways to create a new live experience, one that relies on gaming and social platforms. Today, we're here to learn about the innovative thinking behind these almost real-time adaptations to keeping the world entertained. In a minute, we'll hear from two people behind some of the most engaging developments. First, our technology reporter, Taylor Lorenz, will be speaking with TikTok's director of creator community, Kudzi Chikumbu, and about how consumption and creativity have changed on TikTok during the pandemic, as well as diversity in entertainment. Fun fact, Kudzi worked as a senior consultant for Deloitte. Then tech and internet culture reporter Nellie Bowles will speak with Adam Arrigo, the CEO and founder of Wave Entertainment. Since March, Wave has created virtual concerts for John Legend and The Weeknd that drew millions of viewers and has drawn investors such as Justin Bieber. But first, it's my pleasure to invite Kevin Westcott, who leads the U.S. Technology, Media, and Telecommunications practice of Deloitte. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Caitlin. And also, I'd like to add my welcome to the New York Times Future of Entertainment Virtual Talk. As Caitlin said, my name is Kevin Westcott, and I lead Deloitte's Technology, Media, and Entertainment practice. And we're honored to be a sponsor of today's talk and continue our collaboration with the New York Times in showcasing issues that we feel matter most. I think we can all agree that 2020 has redefined how we consume entertainment. But in many respects, what we've really seen is an acceleration of trends we already knew were underway. Every year for the last 15 years, Deloitte has conducted research on consumer behaviors around entertainment consumption. This year was very unique in many ways. We actually conducted our survey 3 times. We did it before the pandemic, once at the heart of the pandemic, and one more time just recently in October as a lot of the lockdowns were being removed. What we found was exactly what we expected. The acceleration of trends that were already underway actually moved much quicker. And the real question we have right now is which of these trends will become permanent in terms of how people consume entertainment? Let me share a couple of those trends. Customer acquisition for streaming platforms accelerated. People had more time, they were locked in their homes, and they started watching more and more content on these streaming services. We saw many launches during this year of new streaming platforms, both a subscription as well as ad-supported. But the other thing we saw was a significant increase in churn. Customer retention became very, very important. Introductory offers and free trials attracted consumers, but if the content dried up, the consumers left. We also saw a large movement towards ad-supported video platforms. In the beginning of the year, we expected to see a rise in terms of the usage, but what we've seen is a 50% increase of consumers using ad-supported platforms, while here in the United States, the more traditional model was subscription-based. Before the pandemic, video gaming was also very, very significant and growing across generations. More and more people at different ages were binging in gameplay and starting to play games. But the onset of the crisis, video game activities accelerated up to 75% by some measures. And with the rise of video and social streaming platforms, video gaming has become a spectator sport as well. A top live streaming service saw gaming viewing increase by 50% during the pandemic. So which of these trends are real? Which ones will remain after our lockdowns and our social distancing? The esteemed speakers today will share their insights on whether these trends will outlast this and when we return to some form of normal. Back to you, Caitlin.
Thank you, Kevin. And now it's time for our first panel. It's my pleasure to welcome Times tech reporter Taylor Lorenz, who will be sitting down today with TikTok's director of creator community, Kudzi Chikumbu.
I'm really excited to chat with him. To get things started, Kudzi, I know that TikTok recently released its TikTok Top 100 report, which shares top creators, viral videos, communities, and trends that have been popular in 2020. Can you talk about some highlights and standout trends of the year? What's changed in 2020?
What has changed in 2020 is the question of the question for everyone in the world. I think, that you're on TikTok top 100 list is us looking back at all the top creators, viral videos, communities, trends, and memes that really shape pop culture, at least on the internet for TikTok. And what's important to note about that whole kind of list is that it's also within the context of 2020, which had the pandemic. So you were introduced to social distancing, so people being away from each other. So people were trying to find ways to connect. There was personal economic hardship. People were trying to find ways to share their skill, hopefully, make a living from TikTok. And also, there was people just wanting to have a little bit of excitement and inspiration in their life. So TikTok became a gathering place for joy. So that list has 10 categories, everything from rising stars to voices of change. We had, protests for racial equality in 2020. And also we had new burgeoning communities. So when I think what's exciting is just that how diverse the list is in terms of age, content, categories, backgrounds. And my favorite kind of world is community, right? So like plant TikTok became my favorite kind of place on TikTok. And that is for those that aren't in plant TikTok world. It's the world, everything plants. And I think it's important in 2020 because everyone was looking to everyone was stuck at home. So everyone was trying to make their homes more beautiful. Everyone needed something to take care of or feel like they were taking care of themselves. So plants allow that. So Plant TikTok is a burgeoning community with so many creators like Garden Marcus from Houston, Texas, who I'm not sure if you know, but he meshes plant care with self-care, which is incredible. And that's what the list really encapsulates, everything that we've been through as a creative community, at least in 2020.
What was your personal favorite trend of 2020? What really spoke to you?
That's a good question. And I was thinking about that as I was thinking about this list. And I watched all 100 videos again. I live in TikTok, so some of these things happen so quickly. And I know you stay on top of TikTok that you forget what was like a month ago could feel like a year ago. So I watched all the videos. I laughed, I cried, I was inspired. And then I was thinking, what was my favorite trend? It might surprise some, but it was the blinding lights dance challenge experience. And the reason was this was in March. It was early kind of lockdown, stay at home, shelter in place, social distancing. And a lot of those videos were families dancing to blinding lights in this kind of choreography / home workout. I don't know if people know the McFarlanes. They're from Kentucky and they are a dad and two sons. And they had this video go viral as well for that song. And I think the reason was my family's far away in South Africa, and seeing people connect as families was really heartwarming, something that I missed. And also it was kind of this turning point where people were starting to see TikTok as not just a place for teenagers, but teenagers, college students, parents and grandparents were all creating together. You saw J-Lo and A-Rod and their children, LeBron and his son, and then like all families across the country. And I would say that's probably my favorite trend because it was truly about bringing people together and bridging generations. What was yours? But I know you live in TikTok, but what was your moment of 2020?
What is my favorite moment? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like every time I go into TikTok, I go into like a fugue state, and I'm trying to think. I like the blinding lights thing. I loved all the family stuff as well. I think it's been really interesting, like you mentioned, during lockdown, the kind of collaborative creation that's been happening among family members. Right now, I'm obsessed with that guy, Jake Coleman, the like really corny guy that got called out by his classmate for not doing his project and is now somehow collabing with like every big TikToker, getting out of his car to the 21 Savage song. Yeah. I'm just baffled that he's, managed to hold on to his 15 seconds of fame for so long. Can you talk, speaking of the pandemic, how has TikTok, consumption on TikTok changed during the pandemic, and how are people using it differently? I'm assuming they're using it a lot more. I feel like we all turned to TikTok during this time, but can you talk, a little bit about trends in terms of consumption and where people are spending time on the app?
Yeah, without getting into like the nitty gritty of the numbers, but I think what happened in like early March, right, where people were really just in their homes. And the Curtis Roach song, which I still say to this day, I'm bored in the house, I'm in the house bored, I'm bored in the house, I'm in the house bored, but that went viral. People were like, what can I do? So TikTok was definitely a place where you could go to and find a little bit of joy. So I think you saw a couple of things. One, you saw like older generations enjoy TikTok. And with that came adding more utility to the content. So what people were consuming on top of just having fun and maybe comedy and maybe a little bit of dance was instructional, educational content. And you saw, we started seeing this increase in what we call learning, educational, nutritious content, if you will. And everything from learning how to cook. If you look at creators such as Tabitha Brown, she was like, March was the early time around then when she joined TikTok. And a little bit of that was, she's kind of, I would say, TikTok's mom or go-to person if you need a little bit of light and joy. But she was teaching kind of self-care. She was teaching motivation. She was teaching vegan recipes, all the way to cooking with Shireen, who taught me how to cook a really good roast chicken, which I love, or Aiton Bernath, who recently got signed to or added to Drew Barrymore's show as the food correspondent, which is crazy. So there was a lot of learning, a lot of home fitness, like working out, because we were all in the house and trying to figure out how to be active. So I think learning education was a big part of how consumption changed, what people are looking for, and as well as joy. Another one is live, and I think interactive live and connection. So live is a feature that's always been in TikTok, but really people really went there for videos. And I think this year it shifted. And I think when we're thinking about what's the future, everyone has been forced to have these virtual experiences like us now. And I think virtual is here to stay. The key is, how do you make it interactive? How do you scale it? How do you bring a little bit more creativity? And for TikTok, we did the Weeknd experience, which I know Adam may talk about later on. And that was an interactive live VR show, which is really, really cool because the audience could pick and choose elements of the show, which is really cool. We had TikTok Black Voices Live to elevate Black voices. So I think that live experience is really cool. And I think it's important to think about, how do you continue to do that, because it gives you scale and it actually has pushed creativity. It's really easy to do an in-person event and make it cool, right? We've all been to a lot of cool things, but it's really hard to do it virtual and keep people engaged. So as a creative challenge, I love. And then the last one that I think is how consumption has changed is, I was trying to think of how to phrase this, but I think care as a content category. I think the one thing 2020 has told us to do is like, all just stop, just like breathe. We're all doing too much. We're all going on planes everywhere and to so many places and meetings everywhere. But how are you feeling? So you saw as Garden Marcus with like plant care and self-care, or Nabella, who was one of our voices of change on the TikTok Top 100 list, who has her Pockets of Peace series. So really taking care of self, as well as Dr. Leslie, How to Be Healthy, particularly during the pandemic, but she's also just talks about being healthy. And I think that content category of care, of self-care, of home, care around us, people are decorating, people learning how to cook, people who didn't cook all the time because we were all too busy, I think is a big change in consumption, and something that I'm excited to see how that continues in 2021 and beyond.
I feel like a lot of people, still think of TikTok, which it is, as a sort of short form video platform. But, I've been really interested in some of the collaborative, like creative efforts that have happened through the duet feature. There's one guy where he kind of, does these single-sided POVs, and this one guy always duets him, and now they're starting to show together. I know we saw things like the Ratatouille musical. Can you talk a little bit about the duet functionality and some of these more interactive features that TikTok offers, and how that's shaping the content on the platform?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I love the most about TikTok, is that it's truly, and I think this is the future, which is now, but it's the future, is community-driven entertainment. So on TikTok, you are not only just posting and be like, look at me, you can do that too, but you can like do further creativity, and it's built into the product. And, I'll get to duet, but if you think about just like the architecture of it, whether it is a sound or a hashtag or a creative effect, you can see a video, easily tap it, create your own, and you're added to that list of videos. And sometimes that becomes a chain of creativity, like you were mentioning, or whether it's Charlie Puth having a backing track and people singing and creating their songs on top, or it is Lizzo reacting to someone who's talking about body positivity, and that becomes its own chain. And I think duet allows you to do that. And you saw it with Rosa earlier on. For those that don't know Rosa as a character, the creator called Adam created, you can create the storyline, and people then like starting to duet, creating their own stories into like this one kind of narrative show. And I always think of it as like I think about this way too much, but it's like almost like it's like an amoeba that's changing, and it's like all like cultural creative conversation as one. And I think Ratatouille is a perfect example. Ratatouille TikTok, the musical, for those watching, literally started on TikTok. We have this campaign called It Starts on TikTok, and that couldn't have started more on TikTok, of people creating a musical from scratch when they love Ratatouille, from songs to artwork. And now it's actually been announced that it'll be live on January 21st, if I'm not mistaken, to see the community come together creatively with whether using duets or their own original content, but as a community is a future. So I always think about when brands, companies, individuals are thinking about how do they move into the future, how do you empower your community to create and then uplift them and compensate them, include them, and push them as part of the narrative? Because I think for the longest time, creative people in rooms and buildings say, this is what's good, and like, here you go. And I think TikTok has kind of turned that over the edge of like, it's almost like entertainment by the people for the people, which is what I love.
We're all familiar with some of TikTok's biggest names like Charli D'Amelio, Addison Rae. Who are some up and coming, more unique creators that we should have on our radar?
Yeah, Charli and Addison, amazing. Charli hit 100 million followers, first ever. Addison's going to be in a big movie, which is incredible. You can start a career on TikTok, but TikTok is a home for everyone. You can start today and find an audience quickly because it allows you to connect your authenticity with an audience. Some people that I'm personally excited about, I don't know if do you know Flossie Baby by any chance?
Yeah.
I'm so excited about her. She makes these really relatable videos, but she's kind of really smart in how she has like a little narrative of like her catchphrase in there about what it's like being, I think she's pure Gen Z in this world. I think Quinn Williams, which is not Quinn Blackwell, who's an icon, but Quinn Williams is a real estate agent. I think this world that people don't know, you can really learn a lot on TikTok, and she teaches people everything from understanding your mortgage to finding a realtor. I think she's based in Atlanta. She's exciting because she's kind of she truly adapts like TikTok and doing TikTok trends, but to inform. And Julian Bass, who, he's known now after he posted his viral video that Bob Iger from Disney retweeted, which was wild. But I think to see creators like that who have this really specific craft, he's a visual effects creator, but do it as TikTok is really exciting. And then, if you're talking about unknown, I was just on my phone. I'm on my phone all the time watching TikTok, but Grandpa Fashion is this grandpa who has like the dopest fashion looks. He's like 83, I think he wrote on his account. He has like 3,000 followers. If people want something like really fresh, really new, that's like a really cool account that I just discovered. And I'm excited to see that world of TikTok evolve.
Love that. We have a couple audience questions that I want to get to. The first one is from Ben Robinson in New York. Do you see a rise in social values, ergo entertainment with a message, increasing recently?
Absolutely. I would say a great point is, June protests for racial equality. You saw a lot of people and creators on TikTok use not only their creativity, but talk about, the matters at hand, which is, Black Lives Matter, racial equality, and some great creators like Taylor Cassidy, for example, who has a series called Fast Black History. It's entertaining, but it's really informative about the Black experience. Or Michaela Did, who's the host of our live series called Black Voices Live, where she was talking with the likes of Gabby Douglas, Alicia Keys, John Legend, but also activists as well. And they've been able to mesh entertainment and like TikTok trends and what's happening to really relaying important information. And I think this will become more and more important, especially when, people come to TikTok for joy, but they also want to feel like things could be better, or they're also being informed a little bit. I think we'll see that more and more over time. And I think the formats that will come from that are exciting.
Awesome. The next one is from Lisa in San Francisco. She said she loves the positivity on TikTok. What's one unique insight that you noticed this year that surprised you? So what's like a unique, you're our man on the inside here. So what would you say is maybe insights?
In general?
Yeah, I guess in general.
Yeah, I would say, oh man, on the inside, I think I see way too much. I see it all. But I would say the thing that surprises me is that we're all more alike than we are different. Like if you look at all of those trends and you look at any hashtag page or sound page, there's people from all different backgrounds and diversity in its truest sense, right? Where ethnicity, background, age, income bracket. You have J-Lo doing the same dance as someone who just, is starting out creating on their phone that goes viral, that we're all kind of looking for this connection. And I think when it comes to entertainment and brands in the future, it's really about how do you not have kind of this class system, but really bring people together. So that's like a major insight that we try to lean into as much on TikTok. For example, if you look at the Nathan Apodaca for 20 Dog Face 208, Skating, Ocean Spray, Fleetwood Mac Dreams. It has, Mick Fleetwood, Stevie Nicks, and Ocean Spray, and everyday people, and the top creators all doing this thing. We're actually all more similar than we are alike. And I think the pandemic is actually, I always tell people, it's kind of been the great equalizer. We're all kind of looking for creativity and connection. And how do we as a platform do that? And you'll always see us kind of present TikTok as a place for all.
Last one from Nancy here in Atlanta. She wants to know, what about those of us who have never used TikTok? How do you get started? I think the platform can seem really overwhelming for people. And also, I think it's a little bit different than Instagram, since there are other social platforms where you have to really find people and follow. How do you recommend people dip their toes in when they're just starting out?
Yeah, I'm glad to give tips. People ask me this all the time, but I also know you post, Taylor, so you can also give some tips too. I think TikTok, when you open it, it's actually really easy. You open it and you are met with a stream of videos you can like or interact. And I think the best place to start, if you're thinking from how do I create something and post and not just consume, is there's a couple ways. You can actually just there's some people who just talk about their lives. Not everything has to be a trend or a dance or some complicated visual effects experience. Some of the best people that I love are motivational to just spread their message. There's a voice coach that I love who teaches what she does every day and how to, make your message land. So you can speak straight to the camera, post that, keep it simple. Or if you want, you can dip into a trend. The second tab, called the Discover tab, is what's trending on TikTok. You can click one of those and try. Or you can just pick a song. And if you do want to dance or teach something, just do that. I think sometimes a lot of these videos, they do look simple, but they're actually really hard to do. I think more just sharing who you are, and authenticity is a word that's overused in the time now, but it's truly been the reason why TikTok works, that you can, whatever is your thing, whether you're a roller skater, love plants, love fashion, love, telling people, teaching chemistry, you can do all of that on TikTok. So just be yourself and share, which sounds like something everyone says, but it's truly the truth. I know you post. What's your tip?
I post just the most random things. I'm a big fan of friends only too. You don't have to post publicly on TikTok. So I like having a space where I can just post things for just my mutuals. But I mean, TikTok is the one app, like I mentioned, where you don't have to follow anyone. So you can just download it and start watching videos. And I think that also gives inspiration when you want to share things. But 100%. Awesome. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Sorry we didn't get to more questions. And thank you so much to everyone for your patience in terms of signing on. So many technical difficulties sometimes, but we appreciate you staying with us. And thank you guys so much for listening to this chat.
Thank you.
Consumers have long found escape in media and entertainment with no shortage of content to choose from. In the age of COVID-19, the video we watch, music we stream, and games we play have become flickering lights of comfort in dark times. And with more free time on their hands, consumers are relying on subscriptions and services to fill the void. One question media and entertainment companies now face is, which consumer trends will last? Streaming services were already growing, but that growth has now accelerated with COVID-19. So, it's not a question of before and after, but before and faster. Video gaming also competes for more time and attention. And while they miss cheering on their favorite sports teams, fans are turning elsewhere for entertainment. Despite changes to daily life, one thing remains constant. Consumers are in control of their entertainment experience. they're more likely to mix and match subscriptions to meet their needs. Free trials may get them to sign up, and compelling new content may glue them to their couches. But when the rate goes up or the hot new series ends, they have no problem pulling the plug. With so much competition and so many options available to consumers, how will you convince them to stay?
Hi, my name is Nellie Bowles, and I'm a tech culture reporter with the New York Times. I am talking to Adam Arrigo, the CEO and founder of Wave Entertainment. So as we're talking for like 20 minutes, and then I will take user or viewer questions. So submit questions while we're chatting so that we have something fun to ask at the end. But Adam, basically, people know, we just listened to the TikTok interview. People know what TikTok is. People don't know so much what your company is. Give me a sense, explain for me like a dummy, what is it that you guys do?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be on this panel, and just wanted to call out how great that last talk was with Kudzi. We've worked with TikTok as a partner, and I'm so inspired by the creativity on that platform. So we, like TikTok, value creativity and social connection. Wave is a startup. We've been around for 4 years. We're building a platform that allows people to connect in virtual concerts. So what that means is we take a little bit of a different approach to a virtual concert, quote unquote. We basically turn artists like John Legend, like The Weeknd, into avatars. They come into our studio. They actually perform on our soundstage, and we distribute that content into 3D and 2D spaces. So if you guys have seen artists like the Marshmello concert that happened in Fortnite, Travis Scott in Fortnite, our show with The Weeknd happened on TikTok. We're developing a network of venues that allows artists to actually reach their fans in a totally new way in a virtual or digital concert.
Well, and so you, how many people are watching this? So you log in, and I was watching some last night, and basically you're watching an avatar of John Legend, and he's performing and he's singing live in a studio, and
Yes.
but you're watching the avatar. And so people will log
Yes.
into like Fortnite. I know I'm being like super basic, and a lot of people, hopefully people watching this are way cooler than I am and are like in Fortnite watching Marshmello. But like so people log into Fortnite, and then they're watching the concert, and they've been doing this for years already, even before the pandemic. You were doing this, you were onto this.
Yeah, for 4 years. As an audience member, you have an avatar, which is a representation of yourself. I mean, right now, we may not be avatars, but we're looking at a 2D video of ourselves talking. In these gaming platforms and in these streaming platforms, you have a virtual version of yourself that you can use to express yourself in different ways than you can in reality, to interact with other people, like your friends, in different ways than reality. And ultimately, from a musician standpoint or a visual artist standpoint, you can create content that you couldn't create at a real show. So, it's not a recreation of a concert experience. It's a fundamentally different thing that's maybe kind of a mashup of a video game, a live stream, and a concert.
For an audience member, like how do you, so obviously we're talking right now in the middle of the pandemic, and part of what makes this, what you're doing so interesting is that we're all kind of living in what you've been working on for years now. Like we're all kind of trying to figure out how to live in a virtual concert, right? Like my mom just canceled Christmas. We're trying to figure out how to do like a virtual Christmas and all of this stuff, which I want to ask you about in a few minutes, like tips and tricks for me and my family. But how during the concert, how do people who are watching it feel connected to each other or feel like they're in a concert and not just like alone in their bedrooms, like I am right now?
Sure. So actually the first product we built was a virtual reality platform. We've since kind of moved beyond just VR. And if you know what VR is, you put on a headset and you're actually kind of transported into a space. And so we spent the first couple of years.
And there were huge hopes there were really high hopes
Yes.
for VR, and then it kind of like people didn't like it so much, and even now it hasn't quite. I actually wonder also if you would go back to VR ever. But anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting myself.
I think we do. I think it's a longer tail value proposition. The hardware needs to evolve. Some of the new headsets coming out are getting better, but still it hasn't been adopted by mainstream culture. It still feels a little bit sort of like part of techtainment. But in our first shows, which I think one day we will come back to, we had very like sort of intimate social interactions at the concerts that you could engage in. So we had this concept of trips, which were these orbs that you can purchase from the store. Sort of, it's like buying beer at a real concert, and you could hand them to someone at a show. So my avatar comes up to your avatar. I hold out this orb. You click on the orb, the portal opens up, and all of a sudden we've turned to fish, and we're swimming down this river together. And then it only lasts for 1 minute.
Can a sober person do this?
Yeah, in fact, and it doesn't kill your brain cells. But this is a very extreme example of a type of interaction you could have at a concert that you couldn't have at a real concert.
How you would flirt at the concert.
Like the cool thing about it was that the only way to actually go on these trips or these mini journeys is to share it with someone else. So the first version of that feature when we built it, and this is such an old thing, like 4 years ago, is you could just go on the trip yourself. People weren't talking to each other in our first show tests, but then we changed the design so that the only way to do it is you could share it with someone else. And so that changed the entire social dynamic of the show. People come up to you, hold out this orb, and just like, hey, like, do you want to take this trip with me? So now when we do concerts in game engines, like, you know, in Roblox. Some of the interactions are a little bit more like you're used to in these gaming environments. If you play Minecraft or Roblox or Fortnite, you know, this new generation of gamers are actually, they're not just playing games in these platforms. They're socializing, they're living out their lives, they're going on dates, they're having business meetings. It's hard to understand if you're not in those platforms, but I think a lot of what's happening in games, you can kind of project into the future, and especially this year, seeing how, you know, there's a huge value in being able to intimately connect with people that you're not physically with. I think it'll be aided by VR and AR, but it's really happening right now in video games.
Completely. I love the idea of the orbs, and you can go on a trip with people.
It's a different idea.
You guys obviously just raised, not obviously, you guys just raised a lot of money over the summer. How has the pandemic changed things? Like, did it go? I'm kind of guessing that the answer is it went from something slightly more niche to something more mainstream. That like more people are open to something like this. But what has changed? Like, what does it look like now? What do you think it's going to look like in the future? And like, you know, then the dumb question, but the real question is like, is this how we're going to watch concerts from now on? Like, are we ever going to gather again en masse, or are we kind of forever stuck in our Zooms?
The answer is yes, we are going to gather again en masse. So this is in no way, shape, or form even intended to be a replacement for live concerts, and I really don't think it should be. You know, our company, we've imagined this future, you know, for the last 4 years. We've been gradually building towards it. We started as a pretty small, scrappy startup. Over the years, we've kind of been doubling in size each year. We recently closed our Series B round of funding, and we've doubled our company again. That actually happened before the pandemic, just because a lot of our metrics had really increased, and the space with these shows happening in Fortnite and in Roblox, like this was already going to happen. But I feel like this year has accelerated the use of a lot of new technologies that may have had a longer tail of development. And so, you know, we never would have wished this would happen. But one thing that's been helpful is I think people kind of understand the value proposition of what we do. And even though, you know, it's easy to get distracted as a startup by all kinds of shiny objects and, you know, potential partnerships and offers that have come up this year, I hope we've done a good job of just staying focused on building this space in general, because, you know, concerts will come back, people will connect. We've never been building this as a replacement to Coachella. It's more so honestly serving people that don't go to concerts, who are introverts like me, who are in these gaming platforms, who have friends who are not necessarily all living in my city. We want to experience a type of content which we call virtual entertainment together, which, in many ways complements live music.
But in terms of like the emotional human connection and trying to replicate that, like, so you build in interaction, but like if this becomes the norm, like how do you make performers feel like they're actually performing for humans rather than just alone in a room? And then how do you make, like, I don't know, is this going to turn into sort of dystopian incel land where we're all just alone? And like, if you're at a concert alone in your house staring at a screen, like, how are you ever going to find a partner?
I don't think it's going to turn into dystopian land. At least it won't be us that turns into dystopian land. I mean, maybe the bigger tech platforms like Facebook or Google. I think for us, we're musicians and visual artists at our company. And, we know how hard it is to make a living selling your art. The thing that inspires us is creativity, self-expression, being able to reach audiences that you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. So again, not a replacement, but this year has been really hard on musicians and their fans by extension. But even before the pandemic, it was already really hard to make a living as a musician. Like, I tried, my band, like, we went on tour. We couldn't figure out how to make a career of it, so we got into making video games instead. But now, if you're a musician these days, you almost need a degree in digital marketing. It's not straightforward. You can't just put out an album and sell it anymore. Like, I think TikTok has been an amazing example of new avenues for discovery as an artist as well. And so the good news is for artists, there's so many new ways to go directly to your fans, and like both on the new ways to create your music and like also new revenue opportunities. And the good news is you can make a lot more money, get a lot more exposure if you can know how to like distribute your content on TikTok, if you could create a virtual concert and sell virtual merchandise in Minecraft or Roblox or Fortnite, if you know how to distribute direct to Spotify and Apple Music. It's really hard. And so the thing that we're working on is just helping artists first, like, understand and adopt a new form factor for creating content. And then building the tools and the pipelines and the partnerships that help them do what they do best, which is create. It's just that we're in this like paradigm shift right now as a creative industry where like technology is changing so fast. Sometimes it just feels like whiplash. And then this year is kind of, I think in some ways it's been good for artists because it's forced them to understand. It's like, okay, how would I go on tour virtually? Or how could I use a platform like TikTok or Twitch in the absence of touring? That said,
which is the most, of these platforms that you're listing, which is the most important one that you see going forward? Like, obviously TikTok, but like between like Fortnite, Twitch, like where are you having these concerts? That's the most important spot that people should like start tuning into.
I would say Roblox. Roblox has, so Roblox is thought of right now as a children's video game where actually kids code, upload their own gaming experiences, and other kids join them. And so, I mean, the demographic has gotten a little older now. It's like they have a lot of teenage users. It's sort of like a type of like a Minecraft type platform. But
that's even so interesting. So that's
their monthly active user count was 150 million before the pandemic. I have no idea what it is now. If you have kids, you know Roblox. If you're an adult, you still might be hearing about it. However, they're about to IPO, so I'd definitely recommend investing. This is where
I'll get on that.
People are in that platform for hours and hours, like living out culture, living out their relationships, and having these interactive experiences and consuming content that is of a more like sort of interactive nature. So I think platforms like that have like a huge,
that's really interesting. I had no idea about Roblox being that important for as more than just a kids game. That's really interesting.
So we're kind of in the avatar business. Like we turned The Weeknd into an avatar. We turned John Legend into an avatar. We book them in these spaces. I feel like adults that aren't gamers, when they see it, it looks so different and so foreign and so impressive. But in reality, if you ask a kid who plays Roblox or Minecraft, like, what did you think of Lil Nas X or like Travis Scott being in these games? They're just like, oh yeah, of course. Like it's. I mean, they love it, but it just feels commonplace. And so there's a little bit of a generational gap when it comes to how the next generation of consumers are going to like think about this content. But I think the pandemic has forced a lot of people.
Are you calling me old and not cool?
No, I'm old and not cool. Like seriously. But there is a huge shift happening, and I think 2020 has taught us that like the wrath of technology is even bigger than we thought in terms of how big the market is, in terms of how profound the impact of these platforms is and will continue to be in our lives. And part of that's scary. And there's a huge like ethics dilemma around how we engage with technology and the responsibility that these companies have towards their users. But yeah, for us, like we have the best of intentions.
I want to ask you before we start getting philosophical about intentions in the internet. I want to ask you about sort of advice for a viewer of this talk, or for advice of a person such as myself. You are an expert in making big events where people are in different spaces feel somewhat intimate, feel somewhat connected. This is like the challenge you're throwing yourself at in your life. How do people look at Christmas, the holidays, and feel connected even when they're apart? What should people do? How should we do what's about to happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like, so at Wave, we founded the company under this just core philosophy that, okay, we're going to create virtual concerts, but they're not going to look anything like concerts. They may need to start out looking like concerts just because people need sort of an anchor point or something that looks skeuomorphic, which is a fancy word for saying it looks like something that exists already in reality. But beyond that, like we're going to create a new form factor, right? So when we thought about concerts, we were like, okay, why do people go to concerts? Let's address sort of the core needs and the desires that people have. And then think about, okay, like video games, VR, like Twitch. What are these digital platforms good at doing, and what new experiences could they enable? You know, if you take these motivations, which for concerts are, you go to escape, like you go to interact socially, you go to experience artists or fandom that you care about, you master it, you can be good at going to shows. And so, but if you abstract those out and think about like, you know, if you're in a game, what are the things that you wouldn't include about concerts, like paying $20 for parking or waiting in line for beer? Get rid of those, and then take the things like escapism, like incredible visual spectacles, and kind of put that to 11 and only focus on those. And so I think that's worked for us.
Bring this to Christmas dinner. Bring this to how we're going to do Christmas dinner.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, look, people just experienced Thanksgiving over Zoom. We've been in these, like, you know, right now we're at a virtual conference. I actually think this is great. I would prefer this over flying to a real conference. Like sometimes those things don't seem like the best use of time. But look, if you're going to create something that exists in reality in a virtual medium, don't try to just copy and paste it in. Like focus on the things. Just know that it's going to be different. Like a Thanksgiving Zoom is just going to suck if you have the same expectations going into it. You know, so instead, eat dinner and play like a online video game with your family if they can't be there. Or, I mean, think about Thanksgiving. It's like you have food, you have alcohol, you have awkward political conversations with your Trump supporting uncle. Like maybe have a political debate over Zoom.
Leave my uncle out of this, Adam.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't want to bring it up. But like, just know that things are different right now. It's not always going to be like that. But don't like bring in all of your expectations from the past because it's just different.
Let me look. Actually, I know we have audience questions that have probably been being put in. Oh, cool. I want to ask you also, sorry, I'm trying to now do too many screen things. Okay, so your expectations are that the holiday is going to be different. If you're, a video game is a big ask for most people watching this to ask their whole family to do a video game. What else from what you know would you tell people to do for the holidays to make it good, to make an event good together as a family?
Yeah, I think change up the format. So maybe it happens over Zoom, but like you find topics that people are both passionate about, and you have a conversation around, or create a game out of the conversation. Like that's why I brought up the political debate example. Games aren't necessarily logging in and playing Call of Duty on a PlayStation. Like games are just play, boiled down to the most simple concept. And I think this year, obviously there's been huge revenue growth in games, but the idea of games could be as casual as playing online Scrabble with, a loved one. Words with friends. I play with my family all the time.
That's actually a really good idea. Online Scrabble. Anyway, yeah, I like that. Okay, I found our audience questions also. And I'm going to ask, so we've got Mehdi from Brussels. What do you think are the key elements for online concerts to remain appealing in the long term when physical concerts will be back? So basically, how do you keep the momentum going when people can once again gather and, do, mesh?
I think the key element
throw their bodies
is
into a ball.
Yes, that thing.
Mosh pits.
I think mosh pits. Well, if you're a metal fan, I don't think a virtual mosh pit will ever be better than a real one. But I think the key element is interactivity. So when you're at a show, really the only input you have is to clap. Or maybe if you're at a baseball game, you can do the wave. At our concerts, you can actually, so at our John Legend show, you could buy a virtual flower and throw it on stage at John Legend. He could react to you. Or, at the Weeknd show that we did on TikTok, you could send fireworks into the scene with your username, swirling around Abel as he performed. There are different things that you can do to express yourself in front of everybody. And if you want, you could pay to have your avatar jump on stage and take a virtual selfie with Beyonce. It's just, those are the things that virtual shows can enable that, some things real concerts will do better always than virtual shows, but virtual shows will still have kind of limitless production quality and enable new types of experiences.
We have an audience question that is something to the effect of would you ever get into online schooling? Would you ever expand outside of concerts and have a teacher wear the nylon suit and do full body teaching?
I don't think that we would, at least in the near future, because it's not really our core passion. But I think that industry will also explode. And, as AR and VR get bigger, the hope is that these technologies will have much lower price points and enable those types of experiences across a lot of different types of people. I mean, I think one of the big things this year shown is just how hard education is over Zoom. That's not something that ports over directly. So the idea of collaboration platforms in the workplace, enabling virtual collaboration through the 3D interactive software, that's definitely going to happen. Education is another one. I think it's probably a bit more of a long tail, but it will change. If you want to get all dystopian, you can just watch the movie Ready Player One, which we actually worked on. But I think that there's a lot of opportunities to equalize those types of experiences across more types of people and potentially enrich the educational experience.
It's so interesting. I mean, we already have Zoom rooms. It's not that far for me to just do a full body avatar, have that room also.
Maybe it could be the holodeck. I mean, we're a little bit of science fiction nerds at our company, but we also understand that
you guys, I can't imagine.
we also understand that the near future, we need to focus on creating tangible value in people's lives. And so we're excited to focus first on musicians and their fans, because we when we do these shows, the artist always loves it. The fans get to experience artists that they love in a new way, and that's what gets us up in the morning.
Love that. We have a question from Alex in New York, the very New York businessy question. Where do you see the competitive landscape of this market growing in the coming years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think this market is already proving to be very large, and in the next 5 years,
who are your main competitors?
Well, the space is so early that it's unclear who our competitors are. I mean, we work with big gaming platforms and big streaming platforms. Some of them may try to do this in-house. Some other companies are already trying to clone what we do from sort of like a mocap capture standpoint. It's really hard to kind of do all of this stuff end to end, but over time, pieces of like sort of the value chain, other companies will do it better. I think for us, we're just super focused on being the best entertainment company and building the best brand around virtual entertainment, given that it's still so new. We're trying to lock up as much goodwill with customers and artists now so that we can, sort of defend the throne in the coming years. But, I think it's still so early. It still feels like the first quarter of a much bigger game. And so it's hard to tell.
Totally. Well, it's really cool. And I'm curious where it all goes. I feel like this last 9 months has opened my mind to so many things I wouldn't have been open to before. Like I would have been like, virtual concert? No, that's crazy. But now I'm like, you know what? I need something to do at night. Like, I need a way to hang out. That's not just like staring at my dog. Anyways, thank you so much for coming and chatting about this and for building this cool thing. And I think that's a wrap for our talk. And I think that's a wrap for the event. And thank you everyone who, oh, no, I'm getting a no from the control room. Hold on, script. Nope, I'm kicking back to Caitlin.
Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back, Kevin. Both of those conversations could have gone on a lot longer. I would have been happy to hear from all four of those geniuses. I don't know about you, Kevin, but I heard a lot of surprising things today. I guess so much of this theme of innovation right now is about facilitating personal connection, right? We really need it. And I wonder how you think that will continue to impact entertainment, even as things shift and we're not in quarantine.
Well, one of the things we've seen this year is exactly what Adam and Kudzi were talking about, which is the desire to be connected. And if you look at just video games, what we're finding is that people are not logging in playing a video game solo. They're playing against their friends. They're communicating. They have headsets on. They're talking to them. So the technology's evolved so that you can actually be social in these areas. Nelly mentioned playing online games with your family and friends. That's really where the consumers have been asking for this. And I think that the real winners right now are the consumers, because the creativity of companies that we just heard from, that they're coming up with new ideas to entertain us and to connect us.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I can't help but think that a lot of that is going to remain really engaging for consumers for a very long time. It's hard to imagine. When I heard the Warner Brothers news about their slate coming to HBO Max in 2021, I thought it's going to be hard to go back. And I feel similarly listening to Adam and listening to Kudzi, right? Why wouldn't more people want to spend time in TikTok endlessly? Why wouldn't consumers want to continue to go to concerts virtually, even if they can go to a concert in real life? It seems like a lot of that stuff is going to have a lasting impact on how we consume and how we're entertained.
Well, all of the economists and all of the medical experts I speak to say as long as these vaccines are effective, it'll be a second half of 21 when things start to return to normal. We know there's pent-up demand for social interaction. We know that people want to go to sporting events and they want to go to theaters, but they need to feel safe. So that's really what we're looking for, which is the first half of 2021 is going to be hopefully a slow emergence from where we are. But I'm hoping the back half is, as some economists have predicted, I think a journalist recently called it the return to the roaring 20s. Well, the people will go back, they'll celebrate, they'll be going out to dinners again. But the technologies that we have become accustomed to during this time frame will become part of our lives. And I think we'll just find a new equilibrium and balance of how we're entertained.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to hear from so many luminaries and to talk to you, Kevin. I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.